Hello, and welcome to the Invincible podcast, probably the best superhero podcast in the universe. This is the show where friends get to talk all things Invincible, a comic book by an animated series by Robert Kirkman, Corey Walker, and Ryan Ottley. Actually, this is the Invincible podcast, but since you're here to watch the season 3, episode 3 recap, you got that little bit, right?
That's right.
On this episode, we're going to talk about the latest and greatest Invincible news. We do have one listener email. We'll have more on future episodes, but since we're doing it this format, it's just one this time. We're going to go over our exclusive code for the Invincible mobile game one more time. We'll do it every episode, but this is the same,
This is the last time for this week because we get a new one every week. But since there's 3 episodes in 1 week, that's right.
Yeah, a little reminder for each one. And then we get into our full episode breakdown, which I will be doing, followed by Doodles and predictions by all of us for the next episode. With me today, as always, is TJ, the sweet one.
Oh, hello. It's TJ. It's the sweet one. It's been a while since
It's been a while.
Sweet one.
Yeah.
Episode 3, the sweet one
hit
is
him
here.
with the sweet one every now and then, you know?
Yeah,
This
that's
episode
true.
deserves the sweet one. I
Yeah.
think
It does.
It absolutely does, doesn't it?
was a
We've
sweet
got Mr. Ryan Sidoti
Hello, everybody.
and Wyatt Layne.
I feel like there needs to be echo the way you said that.
I
Hey,
know.
everybody. I'm very excited to talk about this episode, especially because once we get to the predictions, we're now predicting along with all of the people listening, most likely, because we will be kind of caught up to where they've been predicting. When we predicted on episode 1 and 2, you know, we're assuming a lot of you listening probably binged 1, 2, and 3 all at once. But we've been watching them, you know, one at a time, then recording our breakdown. So I'm excited to make the predictions for where the rest of the season will go. Now that we're kind of done with what you might call like the opener of the season, right? Of these 3 episodes that everybody's watched together.
Yeah,
Like
put
a
pin in
bunch
it
of
because
idiots, we've waited. Like a
I'm
bunch of
excited.
idiots.
I'm excited to talk about how like this episode is the end of the first batch. You know what I mean? Of season 3. Like this is where they wanted everyone to be left off with, and
And it does feel like it could have been like its own little movie, like with the ebbs and flows that happened in it. It does have that feel.
Agreed.
So as always, we are the Invincible podcast. We are a comic book podcast, so we do talk about spoilers, especially when we talk about predictions for like future episodes. We do try to keep it to a minimum. So if you don't want to know anything about anything in the future, sorry, I'm using my hands a lot, TJ. What's the problem? Like and subscribe on YouTube so you can see how many hands I'm doing and why I'm doing too. So yeah, just be prepared for spoilers.
Yeah, we do try and keep it very much to a minimum when we're talking about the episode itself.
But just know we know things.
We do.
Yeah.
Not as much as the listeners do about this, you know, the 3 episodes, because we had to watch them.
True.
You know, not.
Well, now we do.
Yeah,
now
at
we
this
know as
point,
much
we're
as they
all caught up.
We're all caught
Right
up. We're all
right
on the
on.
same page.
So first, we are going to start off with a listener email. And I think TJ, you're gonna read this with lots of hands, right?
Well, sure.
Lots of jazz hands.
I'm going to keep my hands to myself. This one comes from Andy. He says, "Hi, Invincible Podcast. First of all, as a Syracusean, that's a fun one.
Isn't it fun to say?
Syracusean or Zian?
Syracusean.
First off, as a Syracusean, it's always nice to hear a podcast from other New Yorkers. Second of all, I wanted to quickly say that you are all the saviors of long car rides. As someone who used to go to college in Indiana, your podcast saved me a lot of meandering while on almost a 12-hour car ride.
Wow, that's a lot of Invincible podcast.
Yeah.
Lastly, I wanted to share my interesting experience with Invincible. I found the show when I was bored in my dorm room my freshman year of college. I'm now getting my master's degree. I feel old. I watched the first episode and was so intrigued by the end of it that hold on. I watched the first episode and was so intrigued by it that the literal second the credits rolled, I clicked next episode. Unfortunately,
no.
this made me skip the entire sequence where Omni-Man killed the Guardians of the Globe. Then the next episode started with them all dead. I was amazed at how dark the show got so fast. I didn't watch a single post-credit scene until around episode 6.
Oh my god.
That's one way to do it, you know?
Yeah.
At the start of the episode, I accidentally missed the button to skip the recap and saw the clip of Omni-Man killing Immortal. Talk about whiplash.
Could you imagine? I'm sorry. Could you
Yeah.
imagine just like it's like
what the fuck is
unearthing-
going on?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
However, what was interesting was that I genuinely didn't know who killed the Guardians of the Globe through most of season 1. It turned the show into a genuine murder mystery. So my question for you all is, what do you think would be the most interesting thing for you in the show if you didn't read the comics first? What storylines or characters do you think would be the most intriguing? I think it would be interesting to theory craft about this. Best wishes to you and your families as you head into season 3. Andy.
Milanakis.
Andy from-
Milanakis.
Andy from Toy Story.
He had that really great show on MTV
Thank you,
for
Andy.
a while.
I thought you were going to say Dufresne. I thought you were going to go Andy.
I thought he was gonna go Andy Serkis.
Aw,
Yeah.
Andy
That is-
Kaufman.
What a great
We'll never know.
question. What
Yeah,
a great,
awesome.
great question.
Oh, great email. So I did send that little bit of a excerpt at the bottom to you guys today to think about this.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking about it, and I feel like the things that would have gotten me the most if I hadn't read the comics about the show. Well, the first thing would have been the relationships. I love the relationship drama stuff, the Amber and everything going on there. But I think the thing that would have really hooked me and that I would have been the most intrigued with would be all the like all like the villains and everything. Like the Maulers show up right away. And it's like, oh, are these the main villains? Oh wait, no, these the Sequids, this threat that's coming. Oh wait, no, there's this Titan stuff. Because I love like the Rogues Gallery, whether it be like Batman or X-Men or Spider-Man. I like the Rogues Gallery. And so the building of the Rogues Gallery and who's going to be the big bad would be the thing that I think would hook me the most, not knowing the comics. And like which one is the big bad and going into it like that. Yeah.
I feel like when I was thinking about this, it sort of just put me back in the place of what I was most curious about when I read the comics the first time, especially now that I feel like even though season 1 is very different, I would say, than like the very beginning of the comic, it feels like we've just gotten closer and closer to what the comic was. And so I definitely think throughout like the earlier seasons, just anytime Viltrum is mentioned and any other Viltrumites are mentioned, that was always my thing of like, this has to be the end game of this story, right? Like there's got to be more of this. So I remember always just being hungry for more of that. But I mean, with where we are now, if I were a show only watcher, I feel like I would feel very similar after reading, around these issues, around issue 52 of the comics, was just how intrigued I am with Oliver and where they're taking that character and what they're doing with him. Because I think his storyline at this point in like where the comic was, that's what I was most curious about too, of like what is going to happen to this little kid who is, in equal parts, adorable, and I want to protect him, and I'm slightly afraid of him. Like he's such an interesting character.
More
that
so,
I'm sure in the show I would be just super, super curious about where he's gonna go.
Mm-hmm.
For me, why you kind of took mine, because when reading comics, like my favorite comic book character of all time is Robin. I like seeing like kids in like fucked up situations, I guess, and just seeing how they like react. Like, you know what I mean?
Fictional ones. Fictional ones.
Fictional, yeah, fictional. And like but like no, like not like children who are suffering. I don't mean it like that, but I mean like kids like
the Robin character.
Like Damian Wayne, who's like in a fucked up situation, but he's strong enough to deal with that. Oliver is strong enough to deal with that. And, well, obviously, if you've read the comic, you know that. So especially this fucking episode. But like those types of characters I always liked. So definitely it would, Oliver really intrigued me. Rexplode was always my favorite character. Kind of what Ryan said. probably Angstrom came after that because he was such a unique villain, and then Oliver is kind of my forte when it comes to characters. One other thing I'll just add in there too that I think would intrigue me is anytime there are side relationships outside of the main character, I always think kind of like doom and gloom, and that always interests me. So if I were taking myself out of the comic and having not read it, I think I would be very interested in Rudy and Amanda's relationship right now.
Yeah.
For me, yeah, it when I first thought about the question, I was like, well, it's kind of exactly like the show is such a great like adaptation of the comic that it kind of feels it's the same. Like it's almost the same. So the things that like I guess I would say like if I hadn't read the comic and I was just watching the show, I would be equal parts like curious and irked by like the Kahor story. Like, what the fuck is this about? Like, it's the same things that happened in the comics. Like when Kirkman would pepper these little things in there, and then you'd be like excited because you're like, oh, it's a loaded gun. What is this going to be? And then you don't see it for fucking 50 issues. So like that, a lot of the stuff with like Battle Beast, like where the fuck is Battle Beast? Like, that is one that I would be like really, really excited and eager to see more about. So yeah, all those little Easter eggs that he peppers in there.
That's great.
Yeah,
great email. Thank you, Eddie.
Yeah, thanks very much.
We'll have to let you know next time there is a Western New York area get together.
Hopefully soon ish. Maybe after season 3 ends. So on to Invincible news. So as of recording this or as of watching this, it is live. And it did premiere Monday is when the embargo lifted, right?
Yeah, embargo was
reviews
Monday. Yep.
Yeah.
We're recording actually on a Tuesday before the release.
Yeah, and as of this recording, I believe, or maybe a little bit before, it was at 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't know if it still is, but it was.
Yeah, it launched onto Rotten Tomatoes, because all those reviewers will put the reviews up on Monday when the embargoes were lifted, and 100% of them gave it a positive. So it launched at 100%, which I know is early. There's still only a few reviews. The whole season's not out and so on, but like
it'll dip for sure. But I mean,
the other 2 seasons never did, right?
No. Yeah. So the first season did 2%. It started at 100. I think right now it's sitting at 98. Season 2 is still at 100%.
Yeah.
So the overall show currently is sitting at 99%, which is, I mean,
guys,
we never could have imagined this.
Yeah, we just have to wait until IGN releases their review, and then it'll dip down quite a bit.
There you go.
They'll give it a 6.
But yeah, season 3, I just checked season 3, and it is 100% right now, and it's got 12 reviews now.
It's
when
doubled.
It first debuted was at 6, so yeah, it's still at 100.
There you go.
Yeah,
I don't think actual critic reviews are on there though. Isn't it just audience reviews, or is it both?
You have to be a member. I don't know. It's not just I can't just go on there and review.
Yeah.
It's
Either way, 100%. Great job. So they did have the season 3 premiere in LA with the cast. There you go, some pictures.
If you're watching
Ottley
on YouTube,
he posted some backstage pictures as well. Looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I think this is the first time that we've seen them together, isn't it? Like,
yeah, apart from the what was the convention in Brazil where we had Sandra Oh and Gillian Jacobs. This is the next best. Or in season 1, there was a digital, like an all online during COVID, where they all kind of jumped on a call. But how awesome! I mean, even this photo of
there's
Ryan
your boy Corey Walker.
Name a more iconic trio. I'll wait.
Right,
you know what I mean? It's so cool to see just the giant, red carpet with the Invincible so big on it. Like, obviously, we see that at like conventions and stuff now, but like to see these 3 standing in front of all of that, Corey Walker, Ryan Ottley, and Robert Kirkman, like it just feels great. You know what I mean? It really feels like it's another reminder that like the show has become this giant thing, and they deserve all the success.
Yeah, for sure. So more news. Another Battle Beast variant was really revealed by Arthur Adams.
Yep.
Ooh, that one's pretty cool.
Art Adams.
Very cool.
Yep.
Arthur
So this
Adams,
was the I want to say when we were going through these a couple episodes ago on the podcast, one of the letters, of the covers was missing and it got confused or whatever. But this was the missing one that they've just revealed. They've also revealed that they're doing a blind bag version as well. So the C cover for this, they apparently this is new. They've never done something like this before. The C cover of the Battle Beast comic, if you were to order it, you're getting a blind bag version, which could be any of the variants except for like the last 2 super rare ones or whatever. Or it says maybe in addition, this was actually, Bill, you have it. I put it in there, right?
Yeah. So, however, there are rare surprise issues that may or may not be related to Battle Beast or the Invincible universe that can be found in these blind bags. Those surprise issues will not be publicly announced in advance of the issue release. That's pretty cool.
I mean, are you just getting like a Walking Dead 115 or you know what I mean? Like, is it going to be a random Skybound comic, or is it going to be like, hey, here's Guarding the Globe issue 2? You know what I mean? Like, is it going to be? I know it says it doesn't necessarily
I assume because they're saying like it won't be revealed, that at the very least it will be like, here's a foil version.
There's got to be some interesting.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's going to be a
surprise.
random like Walking Dead,
I agree.
112 or something, some random issue that was just lying around. I think it'll be something more unique.
Yeah.
Sure.
And from what I can tell online, this is the same price as a normal issue. Like, you can get these, pre-order these online for like $2.99 or whatever it is. So I'm probably just going to grab a few of them and we'll open them and see what we get.
Oh yeah,
because I am curious. And we'll see.
Cool. And last, I think that's the last bit of news, I believe. Yes, sir, Bob. All right, so on to our Guarding the Globe code that we have. We've partnered with Ubisoft Barcelona Mobile to celebrate the Season 3 release with our own reward code for Invincible, Guarding the Globe. So this weekend, Season 3 is the launch event where you can play the episodes. So you'll have missions against Doc Seismic and the Magma Knights and Cecil and Reaniman. There's going to be 2 new heroes from Season 3 that are coming. So we've put a bunch of guesses out there as to who we think they're going to be.
The next time we record, we'll know who they are. Want to lock in any final guesses?
Oliver.
It's definitely Oliver.
Now, Oliver would be really cool. Now, that was someone we weren't considering last time we recorded. But now, after watching this episode...
Didn't we talk about that?
I'm going to stick with Dropkick and Fight Master.
Really?
I'm going to stick with Dropkick and Fight Master. Just because they would be a fun, I feel like, unique duo to add.
The fact that it's 2 is what makes me think you may be right.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I hope I'm wrong.
I do think that they would be launched as like one character. Like they wouldn't, it'd be they.
The Maulers aren't. The Maulers aren't.
True. Oh, that's a good point. That's a really, really good point. So,
I think I'm going. I think I want it to be Fight Master and Dropkick. I think Oliver and Shapesmith would be cool though too, just because we still don't have them in the game. And Shapesmith obviously, but Oliver would be really cool. I don't know. I think I'm going Fight Master and Dropkick with you. Fight Master and Dropkick with you, Wyatt.
I think Oliver is too, like, we haven't even finished the season, and it's
you're right. They can still do it later.
Yeah. So if you're on our YouTube watching, you can see the code running below. It is INVPOD, so it's INVPOD, and you also get 3 blue dossiers. So you can redeem it at redeem.invincible.ubisoft.barcelona. And I think we can put the instructions up on the screen, or we already did.
Yep.
But yeah, there you go. So go ahead and redeem those things. Next week will be a new code with new things to be excited about. And unless you guys want to stall anymore, we can get into our main topic, which would be the Season 3, Episode 3 recap. And the title is You Want a Real Costume, right?
All
Very
right.
cool.
And that was from issue 51 with Mark and Oliver heading to Art Rosenbaum's shop. Mark says, "We're going to visit Art Rosenbaum, my tailor. You don't look like much of a superhero right now. You want a real costume, right?"
Very cool.
So
and it's interesting. I think, Ryan, you were the one who said, like, you like when they use quotes, but not when they use them in the show. Didn't you say that?
Yeah, I think it's really cool when, like, they find a way. Like, Mark didn't say that in this episode. They found a way around it. But now it's like that was a line that they didn't actually get to use, but still works. Like, I love that puzzle that they get to play with. It doesn't always happen, where I really come from. Or
it's happened every time this season so far.
Yeah.
where it was a
Yeah.
quote from the comic, but not in the show. So,
Yep.
all right. So this episode, the runtime 48.49 minutes. I think it's the longest one so
It
far.
has been. Yeah.
I am in it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Only a
Written
minute.
by
Yeah. Last one was 47.
46 something, 47,
Yeah.
and then now this one's 48. It was written by Jay Fairber, which I believe this is the first episode that he's written. He's
Jay-
done some other TV shows and
He's done a ton of stuff.
comics. He's done a lot of comics.
We've actually talked about him on this podcast before years ago because he wrote, I believe it was Dynamo 5, which got an Invincible tie-in. Remember we were talking about all the different Invincible tie-in
Yeah.
comics and like all that kind of stuff? He wrote one of those spin-off comics, and I believe those characters might actually appear in issue 60. I'm not going to say what I'm talking about, but you guys know his characters might have appeared in Invincible. So I think that's just a really cool get that, he was able to come on for this.
Fun.
And it was directed by Sol Choi. I believe I'm saying that correct. Who has directed 2 episodes prior to this, both in season 2. He did season 2, episode 1, and he
Cool.
also did season 2, episode 6.
Ooh.
Yeah.
6.
Okay.
Remind me which one 6 was.
6
Oh.
was Rexplode, I think, and
Octobus?
Octobus, and what
Yeah.
else was it? I
The
remember
missile silo.
I might be getting it mixed
Yes.
up with 5, but I'm pretty sure it was the missile silo. It was a very good Rex episode.
I had it pulled
Yeah,
up.
Cool.
I should have.
Pretty sure it was 6.
Octobus would have been
homework a little bit
7
better.
then. Missile Silo 6. I think that's right.
Yeah.
Cool.
So we get the episode, and it opens on a bank heist. And
do you want to do initial impressions first?
Well, oh yeah. Go ahead.
Well, just real quick, because we'll gush about this episode as we go through. But like this episode, I mean, is this the best episode so far this season?
Oh,
I mean, I think it is.
Fucking
I think
down.
it is.
Hands down.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, this one felt like, I was surprised, CJ, when you said that it was only a minute longer. This one felt so long. Whereas last
It was a
episode
lot
we talked
crammed.
about felt quick because the bookends. This one was so dense, man. Like it was every single scene was something that was like worth digesting. And I'm sorry, Bill, but you have a big job ahead of you because like this episode was just the most packed I feel like we've gotten this entire show, all 3 seasons. Like I loved, and we've talked about this when we do our issue spotlights. I love the issues where like every page or every 2 pages is like something different, and all these different storylines are moving and going. And this one felt like we're in that now. And I know we keep saying that, but this really does. So I loved this episode.
I think the reason why this episode seems longer is because last episode, episode 2, all the characters were involved in the same very singular event that was going on. So we got all the characters, but it was all one like storyline that was from beginning to end. This one, it kept progressing and kept changing, like different people. We got characters like Art, like we hadn't seen him before this. So like things like that we kept getting, and then different fights and different villains and shit like that.
So
a bunch of different set pieces and stuff with different villains,
definitely did, and we're gonna start with it. The opening was like, it was. I don't. Not that we're comparing, but like it was very reminiscent of episode 4 of season 2, where it was just like artsy and great and just amazing. And
this definitely. At the minute that it ended, I was already saying that to you guys that this is the best episode of the season so far. And even like it was like 3 minutes in while we're watching it, Bill, you were just like, this is so good. I'm so excited. I have this one to recap. Like it immediately won us over with that opening, and all of the stuff they do with Oliver in this episode is not only paying off everything they set up in episode 1 and 2 and like making that more interesting, but they go like I recently did issue 52 as one of our issue spotlights because I was looking forward to these moments, and they exceeded my expectations. Like with the way they adapt it, the changes that they make to those moments made me even more invested in the moments watching along with it, and it made it even more emotional. And I just I was blown away by this episode, and it's made me so excited that this is sort of the finale of this opening of season 3
Right.
that people will be left with, and to know that that is kind of the high that they will ride off waiting a week into the rest of this season gives me a lot of hope that like the hype for this season will continue throughout. I know there's a lot of people that were disappointed about the midseason break last year, and to know that we're off to such a good start going into the weekly schedule with this one is really exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just, real quick, because I'm going to fucking gush the entire time I'm doing the recap, but 100% like the opening, you get over 7 minutes of no dialogue, no sound effects, just this emotionally daunting music.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing. Like, I'm always surprised how much emotion they can elicit in this show doing different things. Like, I thought, you know, Debbie and holding Oliver, and like when Levy was being really rough with Oliver and stuff like that, like how it was eliciting a lot of emotion, and how they did something completely different here. And I just like to say my favorite episode of Rick and Morty is the Vat of Acid episode, and it also has about a 12-minute long stint where there's no dialogue
Really?
or anything, and it was very reminiscent of that, and I fucking loved it. So without further ado, let's do it. So 7 minutes, zero dialogue. You get. How did you guys feel when you saw Tether Tyrant and Mag Maniac come in? Like, what was your?
So my initial reaction was, oh, it's like a bank. It's a quiet scene. It's like this music. I'm like, everybody's about to die. It's going to be the Omni-Man attack. Because I'm like preparing myself for Powerplex. So I'm like preparing them to remind us of what happened to Powerplex and like why, you know, his trauma. And so that's where my head was. So as soon as they come in, again, I love the B villains. I love it anytime we get to explore them. So excited.
Yeah. And I had honestly forgot about this being a thing that we might be getting this season. Like the minute that it kept going and there was no audio except for the music and we were getting that focus on them, it immediately clicked with me of like, oh yeah, there was this issue where we did get more of a like deeper look into the two of them, and we're gonna get to like have that as this episode. We all were like, oh, we'll get a Powerplex episode, we'll get this, you know, villain centered episode, and I don't know why I just wasn't really expecting this much kind of emphasis put on Tether Tyrant and Mag Maniac. So to see it starting with that and see it done so well with the commitment to like not even having you hear any of the dialogue was awesome. It was so cool.
When Tether Tyrant and when they came in, my initial reaction was awesome. Kind of like what Ryan said, like be villains, you know, like I like seeing characters like that, but this scene is not about them. Like something else is going to happen. There's a reason why the music is the way it is. And then when Bulletproof came in and the music went dark, I'm like, oh shit, this is about them. And then it just kept going and going. And then obviously, you know, I felt a little represented, loved all that stuff. Like I loved the turn that they made there, like to change to their characters.
You're getting ahead.
Okay.
So there's a couple things I want to point out. This entire sequence, the heroes seemed villainous to me. Like the way that like, you know, Bulletproof showed up, and same thing with Invincible. When Mark like shows up, it's like, oh shit, run. You know what I mean?
Music gets dark.
You were on their side,
I know I'm jumping ahead too, but you mentioned it about them seeming villainous. When Mark shows up, they play the title music, but it's like a dark minor.
It's like a minor. That's a minor chord.
Where it's just like, and it's so good. Like,
it's from their
I love it so much. Yeah.
And it's so terrifying because they're these little fucking nobodies. You know what I mean? They can't fight Invincible, so they run. They run. But anyway,
literally hide in the trash.
So you get little cool moments like Mag Maniac shoots magma and lights everything on fire. Tether Tyrant comes, grabs people, pulls them aside to put them out, and then pats the fire out. Like they're not bad people. They're just in a bad situation, which I loved. It was the whole theme throughout the whole thing. So Bulletproof walks in or storms in, and they run off and hide in a pile of garbage together. And then you get the embrace. And Tether Tyrant and Meg Maniac in the comics, they're bros, right? They're but you never really like
Yep,
know,
yeah.
and it could have gone either way. And I do appreciate that they're just going with it. Like,
It
why
didn't
not?
feel like shocking. It was just like, yep,
Yeah.
this makes sense.
If anything, like it made these scenes work more because it made me like realize, oh, these aren't two criminals that are just like going halvesies on rent. They're trying to make a life with each other. You know what I mean? They're trying to survive together and support each other, and they just can't do it.
And them like holding each other back. Like, I know we're gonna get to it, but like those moments had so much more weight than just like, hey, I'm just telling my friend, yo, you should probably not do that. But
yeah.
Again, no dialogue. No dialogue.
William
Go
and
on,
Rick were being all cute and stuff in the first second episode. And I'm gonna call it now. We're only 3 episodes in, but season 3 is the season of the gay, and I am for it.
They're kind of arguing back and forth, very stressed out, and you get the best part in all of Invincible. I don't care what anybody fucking says, but the tethers are sentient, and we
just
know
sitting
this.
there.
And it was sitting there like a dog. Like, what are you guys fighting about? Like,
the fact that like that was the only thing. If you haven't read the comics, what was that one frame of the tethers just sitting there watching? Like, love it.
Fucking great. And then you get a really awesome, like more of an upbeat montage of them going and finding a job at a restaurant. And
this was the moment we're all like, done.
And I'm in.
Like,
just do the whole show like this. The whole episode. Don't do anything else. I don't want to even see Invincible. So, they're holding hands, walking down the street, like waving to pedestrians. I think Tether Tyrant even sees the little girl that was in the bank, and he smiles at her and stuff like that. Then you get a little bit of a downside as things go. Yeah, I have all my notes on my wall. And you get a rent increase. And you get a really cool shot of them standing in front of buildings to looking for extra jobs, and the doors just keep closing in their faces. So it's kind of hopeless, and it feels a little helpless.
Was this after they got fired?
No. So this is before, because they need a second job because of the rent increase.
Yeah.
Got it.
And now is when they get fired because Magmaniac burned the burgers, was getting yelled at. Tether Tyrant freaked out on the boss, and then help wanted, so they lost their job. And the whole time what is the flower? Is it an orchid?
It's an orchid.
I think it's an orchid, yeah.
Very beautiful, like when the scene
very hard to take care of.
Yeah, and it's there, it's bloom, and then every time that it shows it, it's dying a little bit more. Wyatt, are you gonna cry?
Every time they showed it, I'm dying a little bit more. That's how good it is. When we were watching, I was like, this is like Up. I feel like I'm watching the beginning of Up. Like, they did such a great job with this opening.
Yeah, so there's always the bank that's like right around the corner, and like Tether Tyrant's very like eager to like go, and Magmaniac's like, no, let's not do it, and they get evicted. And the hardest part, man, is when they are sitting on the street, homeless, begging for money, and they decide to rob the bank again. So they're in the bank.
When my therapist asks what radicalized you, it's gonna be this scene. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So they're in the bank, and this is when Invincible storms in and ruins everything, ruins the show.
Just let him rob the bank, Invincible.
Yeah. A little bit of a fight ensues, and then still no dialogue. You get Magmaniac just saying something, and then all of a sudden it flashes to the Invincible credits. So then you're like, oh my god, he said it's Invincible, and it good. Every time it's so good.
Yep. And again, cutting to different colors.
Yep, the
very
colors
cool.
are what they're like.
This one was like a red and blue
red
one, right? That was very, very kind of Omni-Man-esque looking, which
All right, so a fight ensues. Then you've got like Mark's held up by Tether Tyrant, about to get breathed on by Magmaniac, which I was kind of
he was always awesome. Anytime he like would go to his magma form, he like gets taller and bigger and like stretches.
His eyes started to glow, and like before he had like steam like coming out of his mouth, like he was about to fuck Mark up. And another thing too, like Tether Tyrant is a human, but his tethers are like not. You know what I mean? We don't know what they are, but they're super strong. So they can hold Mark, which is, I think, really impressive.
Yeah.
So then you get the entrance of Oliver Grayson flying in with old school Mark costume on and pretty much saving the day, saving Mark from Magmaniac and Tether Tyrant. You get Tether Tyrant has Oliver and Invincible kind of tethered up, and he makes eye contact with Oliver and again feels like empathy or sympathy, whatever it is. He apparently likes kids. He's the opposite. Tether Tyrant is less of an evil person than TJ because he doesn't like to see kids get hurt. Okay, he's a hero.
I think it was very deliberate to have the same little girl wearing glasses, and so he sees another little kid with the goggles, and it just kind of calls back to
yes. And Oliver does this thing where he looks like a little kid because he is a little kid, but then he does some shit. So he gets knocked out. Mark saves the day, and they start arguing about this is the first bit of dialogue is Oliver, what are you doing here? You can't use your powers. And then they fly off home, and we get Mark and
but like seeing Tether Tyrant and Magmaniac laying on the ground, their hands are almost touching, and then you pan back to the flower and the last petal falls.
Yeah.
Come on.
I know. And then when it follows Mark and Oliver, there's a part of me like, but what's happening to them? Like where I want to stay with them. Like
we still don't know.
And I think later we see them in the prison, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we see them being escorted in prison.
Yes. Yeah, and I'm really excited for that little story to continue because
I love that.
That
means you probably will.
Yeah, one of my favorite things.
Character building there. Yeah. That like it makes me like them. Like I never loved them. Like Tether Tyrant was always one that Bill always liked for some reason. I don't know. But now he's like cool. Now I like cool. Now I
liked him before he was cool because I knew.
Yeah, I'll say Magmania and Tether Tyrant and then like Titan here. You know what I mean? Like I put them above Titan.
Easy, no question.
Yeah.
So you get a pretty funny scene of like Debbie again is scolding Oliver. Like Oliver, he just doesn't listen. He's kind of a bad kid. And if he were my kid, he'd be fucking grounded like yesterday. Because it's the same thing. They keep repeating themselves. Don't use your powers. Do you promise? Yes, I promise, mommy. And then he just goes and fucking does it anyways. And I think that shows kind of this duality in Oliver. So this whole episode where it's like you can't trust this kid.
Do you guys think? Go ahead, TJ.
Mark kind of calls that out though. He says like you're asking him not to use his power, and that's kind of unrealistic.
Yeah. Do you guys think Oliver was out with Mark in that costume and that happened and he went in and said, stay here? Or do you think Oliver followed him out?
Yeah,
I think Oliver followed him.
Yeah, because
he seems kind of surprised when he shows up.
Yeah.
That I think Oliver probably like saw that Mark was going out, probably because he heard like there was a bank robbery happening somehow.
Yeah.
And then he followed him out. There's a moment too when you're talking about how Debbie's saying like, you know, stop using your powers, no flying in the house or whatever. I love that he like looks back.
I have it.
Yeah. Okay. He scoots.
I have it in my notes.
And she keeps looking at him and then he like goes back down. It's so cute.
Not only that, but I may be getting my timing mixed up. I'm pretty sure it was that scene where Mark was like, you promised that you wouldn't use your powers without me. And he's like, I am with you. You're here. Right. Yeah, so I don't think that Mark knew that he was there.
Yep. Good call. Yeah.
Yeah, but I was going to call that out. Like, Debbie's like, what did I say about flying in the house? Because someone called it out last time that Oliver's always like flying. Just like, hovering. And he does this cute little like, can I get away with moving really slowly to the staircase?
That's great. So when I tell him no more Smarties and he like keeps trying to reach
the
kitchen counter.
No. Like that really funny TikTok of that baby that's like going to reach for something and then starts crying.
Can I?
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. All right. So next scene is we get Eve walking out with her new friend who has glasses and she's now a reoccurring character. So I don't know what to expect. I'm scared. I'm a little scared.
I didn't give you guys my prediction on her, but I can't do it. We'll have to do it offline.
Okay. I don't want to spoil anything. Spoil stuff. All right. Yeah. So it's pretty funny. Eve's talking about like how she likes architecture and how she can like use it in real world. And she's like, what do you mean? How? And she's like, oh, building models and stuff like that. Cause they're just students. and they bump into Amber. And we were just talking about Amber last episode.
Yeah.
I would have bet that we weren't going to see her this season. And I know we see her and she has a bit of a storyline in Blue Suit era, but I don't know. There was something about like I thought that maybe they were just gonna not just be like, yeah, like we need to focus on Eve. And I don't know why, but so far this is just so great.
So much of the like relationship stuff has been changed from the comic that I felt similarly, where I was like 50-50 on whether or not we would even ever see Amber again in the show. So to see her this quickly, I think she's used, really well in this episode.
Yeah, and she's just so fucking likable, like she's so mature, way more mature than Mark ever was, and she's too good for Mark, and I'm glad that so her and Eve catch up. Eve kind of gives her the rundown of what we've just experienced the last couple of episodes and whatever Amber missed out on. And Amber's totally cool with it. She's like, yeah, I was wondering if you guys were going to like end up together after us, because it's just kind of like the perfect situation. So she's happy for her. And she has somebody too. She's got a little boo. His name is Kyle, and we fucking hate him.
We'll see.
We don't know. We don't know if we hate him yet.
But we might hate him. We might end up hating him.
Isn't the comic boyfriend Gary?
Yeah, it's Gary.
Okay, just making sure. I didn't feel like I recognized the name Kyle, so I was surprised. So
but did the guy in season, what was that, 1 say his name was Gary?
Maybe
at the college.
Oh, while they were studying, when they were studying together, and he was there.
It was the party.
Either way, anyways, I was just surprised that it was a different name. That could be a clue that they're not necessarily going to do the same thing in the comic, or maybe they will, and it's just a different name.
This is the kind of stuff that we obsess over. So, Kyle, Gary, it doesn't matter. Hopefully we like him. Don't want to spoil anything, but then the next scene they're back at the teen team base and bringing in boxes. Rex is being his silly little Rex self. There's a lot of Ray and Rex, man. They're attached.
Love this pairing that's just kind of happening, and it's like, you know what, this makes sense. They've been through this together. They've always been around each other for a while. They've it makes sense.
Yeah. So it's really cool too, because you get like Shrinking Ray in the comic was nothing. He was just like this little side character that died, and now it's a complete surprise what's going to happen with Shrinking Ray. We don't know what's going to happen with Ray. And the cool thing is she talks a little bit about her past, and we get some backstory about how her parents, as soon as she had powers, her parents were all in, like, trying to turn her into a superhero, but she didn't really fight villains. And that's why she's like envious of the teen team, because they fought like real life superheroes. And TJ, you get Rex dropping some breadcrumbs, talking about how his parents sold him off for an expensive dinner, pretty much, or the price of an expensive dinner. And how they augmented his body and did a bunch of experiments on him. So we got like a big chunk of hopefully what we get from.
We need to.
I could see
the whole story though. Like that was a perfect way to kind of touch on it. And then when we do get the special, it's like, oh, like he talked a little bit about this.
Yeah. Between last episode with Ratcliffe and this, it's like, there you go. Everything is there.
They're doing all of it. They're doing all of it. Yeah. Yep. Very, very smart. To where, like, if it didn't happen, I wouldn't be okay with it. I'd be kind of sad, but like there's enough there to where you can flesh it out, and we as comic fans can put it together. The last little bit. Oh no, there's a couple more things that happen at the teen team base. Ironically enough, they're changing the name. They said they can't stay with Teen Team. Because Bulletproof is like, yeah, for real, I'm a grown-ass man. I'm not going to be part of the team.
How long until TJ has a T-shirt that says Rex and his exes? Because I feel like that needs
that's the best one.
Please, when he said that, I was like, oh, I kind of want the team to
just
be
like having all of them.
I'm one of Rex's exes.
Yeah,
like,
it's like a band shirt. Yeah.
Hey, I mean, I always said that like Rex's character was made to be on a T-shirt, like his quotes and stuff. And like we're talking about that, like that would be perfect for a T-shirt. And what was the other one? We were talking about it offline. From
Too Hot to Die.
Nicole saying she's gonna make this a shirt.
Too hot to die.
Too hot to die. Too cool to live. Yeah.
Yeah.
So good.
Come on.
Yep. Very cool. And then we get the so Amanda goes to grab one of Rudy's boxes, and there's something in it. Now,
Yes.
I thought he already kind of talk about it in like season 2 that he was working on something.
The end of season 2, he agreed to like not view her as just like another project that he's going to treat her like a
that's
human.
right. Yeah,
and if you manage to, then that's great. But I am not my problem. Basically,
he gave that speech about how like he fixes things. He fixes problems, and she said it's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
right. So there's something in that box, and Rudy says it's a little pet project of his. It's not done yet. So little tease of what's to come there. And then Eve drops in, and they're kind of bummed that they ask her to join, and she doesn't want to because she's going to move back in with her parents. Which Rex, of course, roasts her because she wants to be closer to Mark. Whether or not that's true.
We did get another moment too of Rex stopping himself from being a bit of a douchebag by saying, like, that's what she said. Actually, that's the old me.
Yeah.
But I think, Bill, you're saying like whether that's true or not, but I think we got it. What was it? The first episode of this season where Rex was talking to Mark about how like, oh, like, I want you guys to be together. I want you guys to be happy. And Mark was like, even though you used to date her, and he's like, yeah, I think Rex is okay with that.
Oh yeah, he's just roasting her, like how you'd roast a friend, like, you know what I mean? Like, you're whipped, you know what I mean? Like, it's still, you're happy. He's happy for him. Clearly, Rex is turning a new page.
Yeah,
and this is the Rex season again, bro.
Again.
That's okay.
This time.
That's all right. So then you cut to the prison, and this is where it shows Tether Tyrant and Meg Maniac being escorted in. You see Paul, Multi-Paul in prison, and then it cuts to Titan, who is a new voice actor.
Yeah, I did notice that. Yep.
Yeah. Did we look it up or?
Not Mahershala Ali.
It's not Mahershala Ali. I forgot who it was. I saw it at the end of the credits. Little noticeable, but this is kind of the cost of getting such, high cost big name actors that if he's unavailable, he's probably very highly in demand. That if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
But whoever voiced them, we'll look. We'll find that, or if one of you guys want to find that while I go through this. But I'm sure, like, he did a great job. Like you know what I mean.
I actually didn't notice until after it was over, and Ryan had brought it up. But I think he does a good enough job. I think we'll see how much he's like fully in this season, because even in this episode,
this might
it's a fairly small scene.
Exactly.
So we'll see.
And this might even be, or I'm sorry, it might sound even better when he's rocked on too, because it has that kind of muffled kind of sound to it.
Yeah. So you get Titans talking with Lou and how he
this season. We have one every season. It's this season's pronunciation.
Pronunciation.
Mispronunciation.
Mispronunciation.
We've always said Lou because I never knew how it was, and it's Liu. So you actually do sound out the I in Liu.
Well, that's going to be really hard.
Yep.
I gotta edit all my notes. Yeah, I gotta edit all my notes here. So he's talking to Liu, and Liu's talking about how one of his top like agents is imprisoned, and how it's Titan's responsibility to break him out. And Titan is like, I don't want any part of that. He wasn't doing something for me. He was doing something for himself. He got himself in prison. He can get himself out. And they have a bit of an argument. Liu's voice is kind of cool too. He has like a slightly digital thing going on because of his jaw. And then he and Isotope meet outside, and Isotope's like, listen, bro, like this you can't talk to him like that. This isn't how it works. You need to do what they want.
The order like controls everything.
Yeah. And he's like, what if I don't? He's like, well, they'll fill the chair with somebody else. They'll get rid of you and me. So let's do this thing. And then Titan's like, all right, go tell him to, we'll do this one time and then get the fuck out of my city. And Isotope,
and I don't want to see his ugly, his messed up face ever again. He's like,
and Isotope was like, I'm not going to tell him all of that, but I'll relay the message. And he goes out, and that's the last little bit we see of Titan and Isotope and Liu.
That's right.
So we get cut to Mark and Oliver flying and they're headed to Art Rosenbaum's to get new costumes. And we saw this in the trailer with the whole, Kid Omni-Man and Art, very funnily saying, "Oh, I thought he said it was for the O was for Oliver." And this is blue suit. So we got more than stills. We got actual like action, moving. What did you guys think? How did they do? What are your feelings on it?
I love it. I think obviously like the big differences are like the gloves being the slightly different color and the gloves being fingerless, but never once was I in a scene that I like even really noticed that taking me out of it or anything like that. Yeah. I love the fingerless design just in general with Invincible suits, and I'm glad that the blue suit kind of retains that, so it's not just a bodysuit where it's only his kind of face poking out of it. It makes it feel still like Invincible. And it just looks great. I did love how sort of anticlimactic it felt when he's putting it on the first time, because they just have the elevator music playing in the background still, and he's just like, yeah, it's kind of serious. Like, I like that they sort of tried to take the hype out of it and just be like, it is just another suit. It's gonna become iconic to you because of the things that happen, but not because it's a blue suit. It's just a blue suit. It looks cool.
Yeah. Yep. So ironically enough, I was rewatching this episode while I was at work, doing my recap, getting my notes together, and one of my coworkers was over my shoulder, and he saw it, and he was like, "Oh, is that someone new? That's not Invincible, is it?" And I'm like, "That's so funny that you
love
said
it."
That,
oh my god!
Did you say awesome. That's actually Invincible Boy?
Yeah, I did. I was like, "Oh, bro, that's so funny that you said." He said that, but it was out of context. Obviously, he just saw a split second of it. But it's funny because that's how like the newscasters would see it and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
So great. Then,
one thing I want to bring up though is that Mark had a great conversation with Oliver about the Kid Omni-Man name.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I thought that was really well done. Where he's like, "Hey, like, I know you have your version of your father being a great man, but he did terrible things here, and people aren't going to understand the name." And I also like the fact that it wasn't resolved. So it's not like if I'm watching this without having read the comic, I'm thinking, oh, they're going to change his name. He can't be Kid Omni-Man. That wouldn't make any sense. So I like that wasn't resolved, and that they're still discussing it.
And that Oliver is just he's done so well, and he's so young and so excited. He's like, "Isn't it great?" Like he's like, "Yeah, they're all gonna think of Dad." Like,
and they're gonna get it. Like he says, they'll see me saving people, and they're gonna get it. That's like,
that's the thing is like he was hoping to redeem his father's name,
and
wearing him.
I'll say too that like this comes up a little bit later, but when he says like, "Oh, and you call me Kid Omni." Oh, wait, I haven't thought of another name. My impression in the comic is that he never really accepted Mark telling him that he couldn't use that name.
Yeah.
He always just was Kid Omni-Man. So in the show, the fact that he is kind of being like, "I hear you, Mark, like I'm going to listen to you and maybe not go by that name," showed that Oliver is like, that he cares about what Mark has to say, and he cares about Mark's opinion. And just, I mean, we've talked about this because of the name in the comic, but I love how dumb the name is. That it is Kid Omni-Man. That it has kid and man in the same name. It's hilarious to me because it just makes Oliver that much more cute. That he's like, I'm Kid Omni-Man. It's so
not to skip ahead to predictions, but I hope that we do get resolution to it, and the resolution is like something crazy happens to Oliver, and then it sparks a conversation between him and Mark being like, "Listen, I understand he did bad things here, but this is my namesake. I came from him. He's my father, and people are going to see me do good things, and they're going to know me by the things that I do, and then relate that to my father, who is a good man." I kind of want that, so I'm hoping for that.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah, I would like that to come back.
But if they didn't do anything, I think that'd be fine too.
Yeah,
I think it was a good conversation, and it could be left there.
Yeah, so we get cut to Mark and Oliver flying around in their new costumes. Talk about that. Oh, okay. So the prison break. So the prison break happens that was initiated by Titan. So we have Kursk and Furnace. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And Oliver is like, "Oh, let's go, let's do it." And Mark is like, "No, you can stay here and watch And he explains like what their powers are. He's like, I'm pretty sure like furnace is just like a bunch of lava in there. I'm not too sure. Ryan, what were you gonna say?
Just that Oliver flies off to go to the prison, and Mark just looks at Art and he's like, he has no idea where he's going.
Yeah.
Oh,
That-
yeah.
Good moment.
That
Good
was one
moment.
of the funniest moments, Mark saying that. But then this moment when Oliver ends up like racing off and Mark chases after him. One of my favorite lines is I'll be excited to see the closed captions, but it sounds like he goes, "Furnace is raining, boy."
It does. It's right from the comic line.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's in the
God,
comic.
that's great. I didn't even
Is-
realize that either.
is
It got
raining
me in the
boy.
moment. It's raining, boy.
Yeah, it was really funny.
Yep.
So you've got like Oliver tries to stay out of it, but Mark gets electrocuted. He ends up jumping in, like Oliver's not listening again. And as a parent, I'm getting frustrated as I'm watching this. Wyatt, I'm sure you're feeling the same way. Then let me see. Okay, so they really cool part. So they stop the breakout. Invincible like breaks Furnace's suit and he leaks out on top of Kursk, who's like like screaming in pain. That was pretty cool.
Also,
So then
pretty cool to see that like Invincible beats them very, very quickly and seemingly pretty easily. And these were two of the villains that like kind of had him, along with Tether Tyrant, pretty messed up and like, on his back foot when in season 1 during the whole like Machine Head episode.
Yeah, the common denominator there is Tether Tyrant, because if he were there, then Mark would not have had an easy time.
True.
Because he was kind of holding his own in the beginning.
There's a big cat involved too. I mean, can't.
Yeah. I just mean we can tell Mark is stronger.
He didn't do much. He
He
didn't do much.
Definitely, and I think they've actually made a good point so far in these 3 episodes to show he is stronger, and there are certain things that they have to kind of stop him with. In this episode, we are about to see another one.
Yeah. So this is also okay. So Oliver and Mark go home, and so first we get a scene. Paul and Debbie are at a winery or some sort of restaurant, and Ryan just was reveling in all of
talking
this.
about wine stuff.
She's like, stick your nose in it and stick your nose in further. Really get in there and smell
The
the wet
tannins.
earth.
The
The
tannins.
tannins are just so. And Ryan's just like, yes, this is really, I feel heard right now.
I feel hurt. Yes.
So this is okay. This is okay. I don't love Paul. I
just don't like that he says that he's got thinning hair when he clearly has a great hairline and a full head of hair. All right.
Yeah. We don't say much when we're watching it together, but I was like, he's got a fucking full head of hair. What is he talking about, Paul? And Wyatt was not happy about that comment either.
I like the voice actor. I like his voice, the way he talks. I think I like that part of it. But yeah, he's fine. I like this for Debbie, and her trying to kind of accept it and what it means for the future.
Yeah. So Debbie gets tired of lying, and she just tells him pretty much everything about Mark, Oliver. I'm assuming Nolan. Like, oh yeah, he does. He's like, so that was Nolan in Chicago, and
him leaving and being like, I can't fly. Like I'm, and
my hair's thinning. Yeah.
And very similar. I think it was season 2 when like Mark explains everything that happened when he comes back to Debbie, that they just cut to like the empty wine glass of like they then cut to Paul after she tells him, and the empty wine glass, time passing, but also I'm gonna need a drink to handle all of this information you're telling me type thing. I thought that was clever.
Yep. So the next scene I think is probably my second favorite scene. It might be tied with my first, with the tethers being sentient. Because Eve's dad is there, and he's just not happy with Eve.
I never see it coming.
So Eve is talking to her parents about she kind of gives them an ultimatum, and Eve's dad calls her out on it, but she's not wrong. So she says, I want to move back home and have a relationship with you guys, and I won't use my powers at home. I'll respect your wishes there, but all I'm asking in return is for you to just accept me for who I am and stop trying to change me and treat me differently.
And that I'm going to still use my powers for good. I'm going to work on this and try and save people. Like
she just said she's not going to use her powers at home out of respect. And obviously her dad is not too thrilled about that. But they eventually, come to an understanding, and he walks out, which I understand why he did it. I know that he's got, we don't always have to understand why he does it, but he's just always right.
Yeah.
And Eve's back at home. And
we need a disclaimer that like the rest of the podcast hosts don't necessarily agree with Bill's viewpoints on this. Like,
yeah, also
finger on the bottom.
TJ wanting all the children in the comic books to be like maimed and tortured, and
That's not what I said.
It's just completely taking it out of context. It gets worse and worse every time.
it's gonna get so worse. Who knows what's gonna happen in 10 episodes? So then the next scene we get is Mark and Oliver walking into their house, and Debbie and Paul are just making out on the couch.
Oh my god,
and
this was so funny.
And
Another one of the best lines of the
Yes.
Oliver.
Yeah.
So Oliver says, "quote Are you guys gonna mate now?"
It was probably the
And
funniest.
just so matter of factly too.
Yeah.
Like not like it's a big thing. Mark is trying to be like, oh, we came from a comic book store opening. That's what these costumes. And Oliver's like, you guys gonna mate now? Like he's thinking that's what's gonna happen because on his planet, that's what happens.
Very
Yeah.
childish.
So
sounds.
It's a pretty like chaotically funny moment that kept building and happening because like
even the
first they walk in and see their mom making out with the new guy, and then it's the whole oh shit we're in our costumes, and then they're like oh no that's not us, and then Paul is like oh hey you're on the news, that's you, and then he's like
and
no
it's
it's not.
Invincible.
Yeah, and Oliver's like oh it is us, and then this is where the Invincible is coined.
And then you get Paul being like, oh, I could keep a secret. I once sold a house to a very famous rock star. Oh, yeah? Who was it? I'm not
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I love that Mark trying to test him, being like, I don't trust you. I don't even know you. And him being like, no, I got you, man. I got
Just
you.
the straight face of it, too. Like, Mark isn't impressed that he didn't catch him. Oh,
Yeah, it's great.
So the next scene is Eve and Mark on the roof. It's the key spot in pretty much the entire show where all the good conversations happen. And Mark is not wrong. He's upset with Debbie for telling Paul like his secret identity without like even asking him about it. He's also like overwhelmed with like all of the things that are happening to him. How is he supposed to be a boyfriend at the same time as all this other stuff? And she just does her Eve thing and comforts him.
so
And
good.
Yeah.
Like,
I
Eve
love that
becoming-
moment. Go, Ryan, go.
No, you can go.
I just love the moment of him like saying, how do I fill all these roles? How am I a superhero and a boyfriend and a son and a brother? I'm going to let everyone down. And her response to that being like, you aren't the one having to carry all of that. All those relationships you have, we're here to support you too. Like that was such a great, I loved that back and forth because that is, I feel like a very real life. We all kind of struggle with like all of the plates that we're trying to spin. And it is the people, the Eves that we have in our life that are the ones that like help us realize that we're going to be fine.
yeah.
And where would I be without you? Probably still looking for, was it the Grand
Mount
Canyon?
Rushmore.
Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
So good. So I'm kind of like discovering this as I'm thinking about it right now, but like Debbie made Nolan human. Like, you know what I mean? Like through their relationship and through growing up and through having a son and through the way she showed him the world and what humanity is and everything and what being human is. And that like, she's like one of the best characters because of that. She has all these incredible moments and she's always the one, and even in this episode still, to kind of like bring wisdom into it. And it's almost like we're seeing this happen between Mark and Eve, because Eve is being that for Mark right now and being that person that we didn't really see that happen with Debbie and Nolan. We saw the end of it and we saw the beginning of it, but we didn't see how that happened. And seeing these scenes, and we were already starting to get these, starting from the literal last scene of season 2 with her saying, it's not your fault. Like, you don't deserve this.
And to that point, I think that, you know, if Mark did not have Eve, the path that he is going to go down, I think that we also have some examples of Marks that don't have their Eve or who lost their Eve. And those versions would probably end up more like Nolan than they are like Mark now. Like, I think you're totally right.
And I know those conversations and things like that have always been in the comics and everything, but you know, coming off of season 2, we were talking a lot about like, where is Eve going to be in this show? Like, what is it going to, like, this is incredible. This is so good. And then pair that with some Amber stuff. Like, man, this is great.
Yeah. I really appreciate how Eve is less a like eye candy, like physical, like they're not really showing any kind of like affection towards each other other than like head on the shoulder, holding hands. Like they're really just there emotionally for each other.
Yeah.
And it's working really, really well. So they're building that, they're establishing that relationship first as like a foundation before they go into like them being fucking teenagers and, you know, having hormones and stuff. So I do really like that. Which I was worried about. Like, remember, I was very worried about how they were going to establish their relationship, and they're doing a very good job in episode.
Easing into it, just subtle things, and just being there and being, just like supporting each other a lot. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And then we get the first orb.
Oh yeah! Oh my God, this episode,
the orb.
Soon.
The fact that it happened like halfway through the episode.
I got a tattoo on me.
Hey.
Yeah.
So the next scene is the missile silo. So you've got one of the guards that are there talking about like this is where it happened. This is where the Lizard League tunneled in.
This is one of the best Easter eggs in the entire series.
Oh,
did you catch it?
The quarter.
Yes.
What was that?
It's Val for President quarter. It's from the Adam Eve episode where she shows her friend Val her powers and she turns George Washington into her friend Val.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So that current quarter is still in circulation years later.
Oh my God. That's awesome.
So when I was rewatching it, I noticed it. I'm like, that was weird. I'm like, is that Eve putting? No, it's the guard.
Didn't even catch it. Didn't even catch it.
Yep.
Good job, Ryan.
Guys, come on. That's so cool. That little things like that. Oh.
Yeah. So they're talking about how like that's where it happened, and she's got like PTSD over it, and how the one guard is like, "Oh, lightning never strikes the same spot twice," and the Maulers come through and say, "Thank God for shoddy work, repair work." And then I'm pretty sure they kill them, which is pretty sad.
I mean, they at least take out their nervous system.
Yeah, at the very least.
Yeah,
that's what they shoot him with.
We'll say that. I think that I like that better because she survived the first time, and I would have been really sad if she didn't.
Yeah, I know.
The second time. So they're there.
Music like starts to build as they're there, and then the scene cuts to something.
Hold up. Yeah. So they're in the missile silo, and they're changing the missile, the nuke, to be something else. They're turning it into an EMP to completely like eliminate communication in all the satellites. So then they're like, they can monopolize on it. So they're like going to be businessmen instead of just bad guys.
Love that line. Yeah. We're so much worse than villains now. We're businessmen. Again, this episode is the episode that radicalized me. You know what I mean? I get it.
So the Guardians come in, and then the song starts. I think it's the only licensed song we have. Run the Jewels.
Yep.
Yeah. Is the artist, which he was in.
Run the Jewels is the Maulers artist. Every time the Maulers have been, except for a couple here and there, whenever the Maulers have like a big scene, it is a Run the Jewels song, and it's always a different song. Good.
Yeah. So this song is called Blockbuster Night Part 1. Yeah. Very cool.
Yep.
So the Guardians, it's a cool fight scene. The Guardians all have their little moments, but they've got this nerve or this gun that like shuts down their nervous system. Darkwing had a few cool moments.
Again, he's kind of doing. They really got him down, like how to use his powers, and
he was holding his own. So they took out the Guardians, and Darkwing was like, "Oh, you forgot the shadow behind you," and he like kind of takes him down, goes around him, pulls the Mauler by his head, and tries to pull him into his own shadow. And then the Mauler just aims the gun, and he's like, "No." And he shoots him. Then you see Darkwing fall from the ceiling through another shadow. I
liked the mystery, but there's a big part of me that wants to know what the Shadow Realm looked like as the like lightning beam was going into it. I feel like
you could see all the creatures like in the.
You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. It's a realm of darkness where you never see anything, and he shot a big lightning bolt thing into it. I was like, I want to see it.
That'd be pretty cool.
But it's probably better for the mystery.
Yep. So you get on the news. That's how they see it. Mark sees it and he goes and flies off. And he flies in, and the Maulers are like, "Who's that?" And then the one Mauler's like, "That's Invincible. He's that new guy." So it's still haunting Mark. And then Oliver flies in, sees the news, and he's like, "Oh my God, is Mark there?" And then he zips off before Debbie can kind of stop him. Again, being a very bad kid. I'd
but
be mad at
worried
him.
about his brother. You know what I
That's right.
mean?
He's
all
invincible.
the
He's
Guardians went in, and they all like are not coming out. Who knows what will happen?
Yeah. So Oliver comes in. So Mark gets zapped with this gun, and I thought again another like testament to how strong he's actually getting
Yeah.
is that he stands back up and he's like
Yeah.
kind of getting through it. And even the Maulers were like, "Oh wow, no shit, he is pretty
Pretty
strong."
strong for a guy with boy in his name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
again.
so they're about to hit him again, and then Oliver comes in. God damn,
Right.
guys! What a fucking entrance! Comes in,
Just Man of
flies through the
Steel
gun.
style, you know?
Yeah.
hits the wall like there's no care in the world, and then it's just standing there like the baddest ass Emmer
You guys
that
are
I've
in
ever
big
seen.
trouble now.
Yeah, while looking like the coolest guy. So Mark, they launch the missile. Mark freaks out for a second and says, "Go home," to Oliver that he's going after the missile, and he goes after the missile. So now it's like pretty much a shot for shot of the comic book.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So Oliver goes in for a punch, punches one time the Mauler in the jaw, busts his jaw
Yeah.
up. The look on the Mauler's face, the twin's face, is like, "Oh no!" Like
Yeah.
But then the other one is still kind of like, I don't know if surgery is gonna work. Like, we're gonna have to get
Yeah.
that fixed. Wow. Like, still
Yeah.
not fully taking him seriously.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they throw Oliver around a little bit, or the one does, and then there's this scene, this shot where it's Mark gets ahead of the missile and is flying towards the missile, and at the same time, Oliver is flying towards
Mhm.
the one Mauler twin. And as Mark punches the missile and explodes that thing, Oliver flies through the one Mauler twin.
Yeah.
Now,
So-
as a huge fan of this panel in the comic, what did you guys think in terms of this scene? How they did with all of it?
I like how they did it, like you said, like in tandem with like Mark flying and then him flying towards it too. And I don't want to get ahead of jump ahead to Doodles, but if I can show off the original page so that you
Oh,
can't really
yeah.
see it in the
Oh, yeah.
but that's the pencils. You can't.
Yeah, it's
Hold
really
on,
hard to
let
see with the glare. Yeah, that's one
There
of the
we go.
ones that you have the original art for.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah. And
So
it-
the original
the-
pencils of him flying right through the Mauler. That's one
Yeah.
of my prize.
Mhm.
the moment in the show goes by so quickly. Like, you do get a little bit of slow-mo of him coming out of the back of the Mauler,
Mhm.
but it goes by so quickly that I feel like it delivers what it needs to tell you what just happened. Obviously, it's still like nothing can compare to that page of Ottley's art because and the colors on it, because it just feels like, especially having that be a full page, when you get to
Yeah.
that in the comic, you just sit with it for a while.
Yeah.
And you're just
Yeah.
like looking over.
And it does slow
how,
down. Like, it does go into slow
Yeah.
motion for a minute, and
Yeah.
you do get to see it. And it looks very similar, the
Yeah.
same kind of composition as the page in the book. Yeah, really cool.
Yeah, it's a lot different. I mean, the
Yeah.
angle is a little bit different, obviously, but Ryan, to your point, or Wyatt, to your point, it's a lot different when you're just staring at him stuck in a guy's body, pretty much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I think that just is the highlights of both of these mediums of like.
Yeah.
In the show, it is the shock of, did that just
Yeah.
really happen? And then the moments after really sitting with, yes, it did happen.
Yeah.
Whereas the comic is more like, let's just set you in the middle of this moment and show how gross and gruesome it is. Like,
So one of the things that I really wanted to talk about here is, so what happens next is Oliver's covered in blood, and the one Mauler is like, I give up, I surrender, whilst holding his jaw, and Oliver says it's too late for that, and uppercuts his head off.
Does he
And
say
then and then he says, "That's what happens when you're a bad guy." Yeah. And
so that's almost like story wise, not so much like craziness, but story wise, like that's the more concerning, like jaw dropping. Is the fact that he like essentially like he legit did murder the second Mauler. Like the first one was questionable, and they talk about that a little later. But
to jump ahead to the very next part, Bill, where Immortal is like waking up, and they allude to the fact that they can still kind of see what's going on even though they're paralyzed. So Immortal gets up and says like, child, and Oliver
you think that he's gonna say you killed him, and it's like you child.
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
And Oliver immediately switches and says, like, it was an accident. I didn't mean to, which doesn't feel genuine after just saying, like,
so
it's too late for that.
Yeah.
So
you know?
this was truly disturbing. Seeing Oliver brought to life, seeing him in the comic book is one thing, because you're like, oh, I love Oliver. He's such like a gray character, because like, you know, he believes people lives don't matter. But seeing it in life, like with voice actors and like in motion, it was really fucked up. Like it was
in tone between,
and oh my god, and
talking
him
to Maulers
and him
talking to Immortal, like, yeah,
dude, him going from that's what happens when you're a bad guy covered in blood, and then being like, oh, I didn't mean it. I was like, you're a fucking psychopath, and I don't want to be in the same room as you. Like, Jesus. And even
but it's because he doesn't understand how to interact with the people of this world and doesn't know how to like do what's expected of him, because on one hand he does feel like, no, they're bad guys and I should get rid of them because they're bad guys and they almost killed people and hurt people and now they won't. But now look at all these people looking at me like I am this monster. I have to somehow like defend myself or make them feel like it's okay.
I mean, he's
and I need
been
to
on Earth
be a
for
kid
3
again.
months.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. Yeah.
it's a long time for Thraxon time, though. Like,
Yeah.
don't it's
I
perception
know,
versus
I
reality
know.
here. Don't
Yeah.
you know,
I
don't
know.
humanize it. Okay.
Don't.
He's in
Nope.
sectile. I got it that time. So Cecil teleports in, and
Oh
he's
my
trying
God.
to like comfort the kid. He's like, it's okay, you know, they've never just seen a kid do what you did, you know. And then Mark, I think this part is the part that scared me. Like, I jumped.
Yeah.
Because Mark comes in out of nowhere and grabs Cecil and is like,
The way
I
he's
told-
holding him, just straight.
Dude, yeah, he's like, I told you to stay away from my family. And Cecil's like, I see you've been training your kid in the way of
In the
your
family
business.
in the family business.
Yeah.
And he was like, and I was just trying to clean up this mess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again,
And just last episode, we saw Cecil coughing up blood because Mark was choking him. And while he's being choked, you're going to say that line, Cecil?
Yeah,
Like,
man.
he's got some balls.
Man, you don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Cecil knows how to get him, man. He knows how to get under their skin and like really. So he drops him. I think he threatens him again. Mark does, stay away from my family. But then it's the famous line from the comic, Sky Now.
Yeah.
And they go up. And this is where so they have an argument about it. Like, Mark's literally like, you murdered people, and he was like, there were the bad guys, kind of that same argument. And Oliver's like, I don't understand. You wanted me to help. I'm helping. I'm doing good. And he's like, and now you're just gonna yell at me? Like, it's another. This voice actor, this kid is doing a fantastic job of being evil, but not evil, just like straight, telling it straight, but then also being like confused. Like, he's like, and now you're just gonna yell at me when I'm doing like, I don't know what to do. And he takes off.
Well, even before he starts taking off, which again, this is some of the new things in this scene that are different from the comic. Because like I said, I just did this issue as our issue spotlight, and all of this conversation is very one for one for what happens in the comic, except for the fact that he starts tearing up as he's talking to him, which does not happen in the comic. It feels like he's more angry at Mark for like, why are you arguing with me? In this, he starts tearing up and says, and now you're mad at me. And then he tries to run away, essentially. And like,
he does
fly
run
away.
Yeah.
And Mark immediately has the line of like, when'd you get so fast? Which either is that Oliver is really just maturing and getting stronger at a fast pace, or maybe he wasn't really showing Mark as how fast he was when they were originally flying. But
I think it's also that emotion too.
Yeah, that he's being fueled by that. But that, and then while he's flying, even you see the tears, Mark getting in front of him and catching him and like holding him to stop him.
Dude,
I was a wreck watching it. Like just from those changes, it made me feel so much more empathy for Oliver than I think I do in the scene in the comic, because in the comic it is all about what he's saying, the points he's making against Mark, and how that is such an opposition to how Mark is trying to think right now. And that, more of that, all of that's still there, but now you also feel like this sort of betrayal in Oliver and this like pain in him that he's like being scolded for just trying to do what he thinks is the right thing to do. It's so good.
The comic has more of that like almost courtroom, like back and forth, bringing up points and like
Yeah.
trying to being
Yeah.
very intellectual about it. And he's more well spoken and smart. And in this one, he's just like Bill, you said, like confused and a kid. And
Yeah.
he's like, I don't know what to do. Like I'm doing the right thing. I don't understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that and like other really cool things that I don't know if it's drawing parallels but it's Mark, I feel, used something that his dad taught him. Remember when he was flying and he was real low to the ground and he was like bringing all those clouds to him?
Oh yeah.
I don't know. Mark was smart in this. Like I don't think that he felt like he could catch Oliver just flying straight at him that low, which is why he shot up real high to get a better perspective and then come down at a better angle. Because when you're up higher, you can kind of hit the curvature.
Going,
you guys, I'm talking physics here. You understand what I'm talking about, right? The curvature of the earth and stuff like that.
I'm talking physics here.
Yeah, it was just great. And Wyatt, when he caught him and he just held him like that, it was just, oh my God.
It broke me.
Yeah, what a fucking awesome part.
It's minor, but I would have liked to have seen the blood at least like come up with how fast
he was
going.
Still very
clean him a bit.
And we should talk about the fact that there is a slight dialogue change, because a lot of this dialogue is
we need to talk
straight
about
out of the comic, and it ends with Mark him saying, "Don't you ever think Dad's right?" And then Mark, seemingly whispers, judging by the size of the print in the comic, sometimes. And in this one, it pulls away to a wide shot, and we don't hear him say that. But I kind of like that. I like him not saying it, because I feel like
his silence is enough.
Open. Yeah, it leaves it open to interpretation for the viewer, where you can assume he didn't say no. I don't think that he's right, but he didn't say yes either. So it leaves us wondering,
which is also sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a bit of both, but I think especially where this Mark is and where the comic was and everything like that, it was going for the more like hard, like he thinks something like right now this was the right thing to do, and it was great.
Yeah. Maybe that was right. I got that. So back at home, Mark flies home, and Eve is there waiting for him. And we talked about this a little bit too. The animation here is just incredible. Because it's sunset, so the way that the light is hitting him,
like it's some of the best the series has looked.
Yeah, it really is, and it's just like it's they didn't have to do it. Like they didn't have to change it to where it looked dusk outside, and it just I don't know. I was like really like taken back by how good it looked. So they talk about how Mark fucked up. He forgot about their first date, and Eve was like, "Yo, you forget who you're talking to. Like, I get it. I understand." And they have a nice little conversation. And then Mark walks into the house, and Debbie's like, "Oh, what about your date?" And he was like, "We decided to reschedule it. This not a good time for it."
Their conversation was great.
Yeah, we need to talk about their conversation, because talking about Debbie, Eve first of all, it talks about Oliver and talks about how Oliver,
her reaction.
That he killed the second one. He killed both of them, but the second one, the second one was surrendered, and even Immortal saw him and saw him surrender, and that he wasn't sorry, and you should at least feel some kind of remorse, and he didn't. And then after that, they talked about Debbie, and Debbie's just telling this random guy my identity, and she's like, "Well, you lost a father, but she lost a husband, and don't you think that she deserves to have somebody? Like, who's he going to tell? Even if he did tell somebody, who's going to believe him?" That was all awesome. I love that conversation.
Yeah. So he goes into the house. Debbie's doing dishes, and he walks up and he's just like, "You wash, I'll dry." And they're sitting there having a conversation, and he pretty much rehashes that sentiment with Debbie. Like, I understand why you did it, and I support it. I support you and Paul. And she was like, "I also should have told you first or talked to you about it beforehand." So it was a really nice moment between them. And then the next scene is them upstairs talking to Oliver about the value of life and how Oliver doesn't value life, and he doesn't think that other people's lives are valuable if he doesn't know them. And then Debbie kind of breaks it down and is like, just because you don't know them doesn't mean that they have people that don't love them, like how you love me and I love you. Like everybody else has that relationship. And then Oliver, he's just so smart, man. He should be a fucking lawyer. Says the Maulers didn't have anybody that loved them.
Yeah, they didn't have friends or family.
Yeah. And they pretty much just land on it was still wrong.
And he's like, yeah, I get it. Ultimately.
And I like that he says, like, I won't do it again. And she says, you need to really mean that. Like, it is this thing where they can parent him the best they can. But I think that's one of the things I love about Oliver's character, especially at this point, is that sort of like the weight you feel parenting a child, of knowing that like you can tell him and try to steer him in the direction that you think he should go as much as you can. But at the end of the day, they're a person that is going to make their own choices that you can't always necessarily control. And that's equal parts like exciting and scary, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's frustrating being a parent and having children of different ages, because like Remy's 9 and she's still very much like, will listen to me without question. You know what I mean? And then Riker, who's almost 14, is his own man and has his own opinions and is very much not combative, but he doesn't just say okay, you know?
Yeah.
And Oliver is like that. He's both of those things.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating when you're a parent, and because I can't control Riker. I can't make him do anything that he doesn't want to do anymore. And it's frustrating. And it's got to be really terrifying being a parent and being a brother to a fucking alien who isn't at all human, not even a little bit, and trying to clearly train this thing to be human, to have human emotions when they don't. It's hard. It's scary.
Not just a brother, though, because in the conversation that he had outside with Eve on the step, he said, I don't know how I can raise a boy like him. He's raising him. It's not just like a brother. Like that's when they got into like, look at what Debbie did. Like Debbie raised you, and that's how they got into talking about Debbie. But it's more than just a brother and like training him. It's raising him to be a decent human being.
So they hug, and then through the window, Mark sees another orb, darts out, grabs it, and it explodes in his hand off camera, and you hear like car sirens going off,
and it like the window shatters onto Debbie and Oliver, like way more violent than I expected.
Yeah, it was brutal.
Although, shout out to Mark for not flying through the window. I love that we see him zoom super fast and then the window open, because I kind of half expected him to go through the window just to get it. But I love that he's like considerate enough that like I can get to it before if I just open the window.
Yeah. And then I believe Debbie is like, "What is it?" And he says, "I don't know." And it's still
like, it ends on that like very quiet, cold
credit, and then we get the after credit scene, which is directly related to what just happened, which is unlike what we have been seeing.
Yeah.
And it's you see monitors of whoever was watching that. And I mean, if you know his voice, you know who it is.
I mean, if you read the credits, you know who it is, because they actually say in the credits.
And
we can say who it is.
Angstrom Levy
it's Angstrom.
is not dead, and he's
the only reason we don't see his face is because they're saving what his face looks like.
Right. And he says, "Such a happy family."
Yeah.
And then we get legit. That was like the first, like, I think, I'm trying to think back, but I think that was the first like legit after credit scene that felt like an after credit scene, because it was quick. It was like credits, and then done.
Like
I loved that.
These 3 episodes, this is what people are going to watch the weekend season 3 comes out. You're getting Oliver with powers killing the Maulers, blue suit Mark. You're getting like Angstrom is back. Like, that's insane.
And all of issue 50 and all of that. You know what I mean? Like
stuff?
One of the most iconic moments in this era of Invincible. And then on top of that, you get this episode. And it's what a treat.
It's amazing.
Oh my God. What an episode. And to think that was only episode 3. And
We're not even halfway.
Not even halfway, almost. Very, very excited for our next episode breakdown.
Same.
Excited to get all of your emails. So we'll get into all that stuff too. But first, before we get into our predictions and then sign off for the evening, we have Doodles.
We do.
So we do
I have
like
so
to try
many
to.
guesses. I feel like I could. I feel like I could guess.
I think you guys can guess mine.
Yours is
I
clearly
feel like
going to be
I
the
can guess
tether
yours.
tyrant.
It's
Yours
the
is
alien
Yours is
tether
gonna be
tyrant.
Tether
Yeah.
Tyrant.
Yeah.
Yes, Bill.
Nice.
That is
Well done.
so good.
Well done.
That's good.
That looks
Thank you.
amazing.
Yeah.
Good
That
job.
was going to be my backup. I was trying to think of what things to draw, and that was definitely one like, oh, I could do that for sure.
Yep.
But you let me
Ryan-
do it, and I appreciate it, Wyatt.
Yeah.
That's great.
Ryan, you hate doing obvious things, but if you didn't draw fucking wine, like you fucked up.
No, I thought about it.
I'm
There
I'm
was
gonna say
Okay,
one
you
of
fucked up then.
one of
TJ,
you
if
drew
there
an
was
orb.
an if
One of
there
you
was an
drew an orb.
interesting
TJ drew
orb
the
would have
orb.
been so good. If
Yeah.
there was an interesting bottle or something, I would have done the wine, but they were just basic glasses. Sorry.
Stupid fucking.
Come on, animation department, class up the wine for
No,
Ryan.
but
next
there
time.
was no bottle. It was just glasses
Yeah,
with the
yeah,
with the
true.
wine in it. So I wasn't gonna. Yeah.
Ryan was like looking to see if it was like a California
Oh
wine.
yeah, I'm
or,
thinking
like,
no. It was Italian based on
What
their
year is that?
description.
What year is that? Is it a Pinot?
I think it was a Super Tuscan. All right. So mine. TJ, do you want to throw some other guesses out there?
No.
My
Okay.
only
I
other
have-
guess was
I
the
have a-
orb or the orchid. The orchid, maybe.
The
Like,
orb was going to be
Yay! Yeah.
nice.
Oh, why is it withering? You couldn't draw it when it was full of life, Ryan.
No,
No.
that's how we left it.
Also,
Well, no,
did you
I'll
guys
believe
notice
I didn't.
that at the,
I didn't
that
full
at the
screen
end
yours, Bill.
that at the end it was in a coffee can?
Yes.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
noticed. I
I-
started to spell coffee on mine.
Wyatt is very difficult to guess.
Bill, can you bring yours back up real quick? I'm gonna go full screen on yours real quick.
Yeah. Got to give everybody the full
Yes.
tether.
Yes. Very good. Thank you.
But Wyatt's
man,
is
I
gonna be
wish I
something
did the orb.
super outlandish to something that we didn't see on screen. I
Yeah.
can see
I did that
Wyatt-
last time. I didn't feel like I
True.
could do it this time.
My-
and I didn't
my-
have one
my-
that I could think of.
my super. So my guess for you was wrong then, because
Okay.
my guess was going to be Eve's
Is
screenshot on her phone of Invincible.
Oh,
from the news.
Invincible.
Oh, that's
That would be a good
Oh,
one. That'd be a good
yeah.
one.
did
No,
you do
not
did you
that
do
one.
anything Oliver related?
I did.
Is
I'll
it some
show
Olivers?
mine. You guys have been doing color. I feel like I had to do some color, so I went with
Nice,
that's what you
Good.
get
awesome,
when you're a bad guy.
very nice.
Amazing.
Ooh, that's really
Good,
good.
even the-
good job
even
on
the-
the cheek too, the little
Yeah.
swollen spot.
Yep. Used up a lot of the red marker there.
Yep.
Hopefully Ryan Ottley would be proud.
Very good.
I thought he was
I-
supposed to be purple.
I struggled with mine. I'm glad. So first, I
No
drew the
repeats?
orb.
Did
I
you?
drew the orb. And
Oh,
I didn't
nice.
like it. I erased it. Then I drew, and I'm glad I didn't go with this either. Then I drew Kid Omni-Man's chest all red.
Oh,
so it would have
nice.
been very
We
similar.
could've put ours
I
together.
didn't go with it.
Yeah. Just
Did you do Tether Timer and Magmaniac
No,
holding hands? Oh,
no. I did a Mauler on the ground.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
nice.
Dude,
Well
the even the little bit of costume you see, that's great.
Yeah.
The blood.
Very good.
the,
Look at
the
them
ankle
grippers.
bone.
Look at them.
Yeah.
grippers.
Wow,
It's,
dude.
it's like the
I
the round-
struggled. I struggled to line it up. Like
Oh
it
wait,
was a
hold on, sorry.
pain, but
There you go. Very good. Good
Very
job.
nice. Very nice.
thanks.
My
What
other
kind of-
one that I
what
was
kind
gonna
of
fall
better
back on was I was gonna draw Kursk with just the "It's raining boy."
Yeah.
Like,
Excellent. So, before we end this, guys, predictions for episode 4.
Can I?
I would
just
have
wanna-
go.
I this isn't a prediction, it's more of a conversation. And it didn't hit me until seconds ago when we were talking about it. And I like kind of went quiet because I was building this headcanon that I couldn't get away from in my head. Omni-Man and Mark's fight in like Chicago in the comic was issue 11. The Kid Omni-Man and Mahler's was issue 52. So there was a ton of time in between. That's not really the case when it comes to the show. So in my head, we were talking about the Immortal. There's no one on Earth that hates Immortal or that hates Omni-Man more than Immortal. So again, we didn't get this in the comic because we didn't need it. There was so much time in between, but I'd like to see more from Immortal and Invincible because they never really resolved their issues from like Immortal doesn't trust Invincible. And now Immortal is on Cecil's side after their like split. So I'd like to, and Immortal was the one to witness Kid Omni-Man do what he did to the especially the second Mauler. So I would really like to see a conversation between Mark and Immortal being like, you are clearly who I thought you were. You know what I mean? Like something more there. I don't think we'll get it, but I was just building that headcanon and I think that would be cool to see. But I just wanted to get that out.
I think it was episode 5 of season 2 that was the Alan the Alien episode. Was it 5 or was it 4?
4.
It was 4?
I think
it lines up. I think we're going to get a Alan episode and it's going to be the prison break. And I think we probably won't
lock down, but not out.
Yeah. I don't,
think that's the name of the Alan episode.
I don't think we're going to see, if we see Earth, it's going to be 5 minutes max. I think a lot of it's going to be in space. I think a lot of it's going to be Nolan.
All right.
And Alan.
That kind of lines up with what I was thinking because I would have bet money that we would have seen Powerplex in the first 3, the way they've been advertising it. So just like Bill saying Dinosaurus every episode and TJ saying Orbs every episode, which the Orbs have.
Oh, Dinosaurus is going to be in this episode, obviously, too. Okay.
Obviously.
Yeah. He'll be in space.
So
somehow.
we have to get Powerplex. And if they're going to do the thing where it's an all Powerplex point of view, that's only half an episode. The other half, Alan
and Nolan. That's good.
I
like that take.
The reason why I think both of you could be right is because of the post-credit scene with Angstrom that we just got. Like that's a big thing. They need to just that's what they're gonna do. They're gonna just not even show
only for one episode.
Yeah.
Because they're either continuing that this episode, like he goes, like Invincible goes to Robot
Chicago.
right away. No, Robot, and be like to try and figure out who did this. He goes to Cecil and blames him. That's when we get the Wolfman tie-in comic. Like we still
there's so much.
Guys, literally, it's just those storylines, the prison, like Powerplex, the Wolfman, Cecil fight, and all that kind of stuff, and then it's 60. Like
the war.
This. Oh like, no, and then no. Sorry, there's King Immortal still in there somewhere too.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I want.
No, that's the 460. That's
before.
Definitely,
yeah, you're right.
There's also Eve. There's also Eve. Invincible Inc. Like there's that whole thing. There's issue
which as of recording right now, they have released some more images, and there is an image of Eve in like a business suit. So that's out there. We know that's coming. Yeah. I want Dropkick and Fight Master to come back, and I want the King Immortal stuff. I'm excited. I think maybe the most for that. I don't know. I'm all of those things, and you could tell me any of those things was the next episode, and I'd be like, yeah, probably. Who knows? Like,
and then what's even more exciting about that, Wyatt, is that the things that weren't in the next one are going to be in the one after that, or the one after that. Like, this is just where we are now.
Yeah. Those two things are going to draw out the post-credit scene that we just got. It's going to be the King Immortal episode, and it's going to be what Ryan and Bill, what you guys said, like the start of Powerplex and then the prison break. They have stuff to
so much.
To put
I mean, imagine, think about how many things we got in this episode. Like, it's not unheard of. They can't not do a lot of these things and make it cohesive. Yeah. And then obviously they have to just have Dinosaurus in a cloak. You can't really see his face, and he just said, and he says soon. He says soon,
which also happens around now too. Is the first season, because
not Dinosaurus though.
Yeah,
no.
It's
Russ.
Right.
Yeah. So exciting, guys. So exciting.
All right. So there we go, guys. We did it. We are on episode 4 coming up.
So for anyone that made it this far, if I can jump in here, our plan is to record every Tuesday-ish. So after you watch a new episode on a Thursday or Friday, send us your emails and thoughts over the weekend, and we're going to be including them.
Good segue. And where can you email us at? theinvinciblepodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us over on Twitter, Blue Sky, Facebook, YouTube, and Spotify. Also, you should absolutely check out our website, theinvinciblepodcast.com. probably the best website in the universe.
Yeah.
And then TikTok. We've got a TikTok. Wyatt works really hard on those videos, and please follow us everywhere you can. Spread the word, guys. And we appreciate everybody. So until next time, I'm Bill.
I'm Ryan.
No.
Come on, TJ!
No.
We
And
almost
I'm
Wyatt.
And I'm
Wyatt.
Wyatt.
Why did you drop the ball? I thought if anything, I knew TJ wouldn't.
No, I like
All right.
that. I'm Bill. I'm Ryan. No.
No.
And I'm
No.
Wyatt.
Bye,
Bye,
guys. Thanks.
everybody.
Bye.
Yeah, but the fact that we're gonna watch an episode today, it like got me through my day.
Oh yeah,
Like,
100%.
It yeah.
Like, yeah.